direction. But Hosana, I think you're going to be very disappointed when you get here, my boy, because this water is very dirty. Also think... There he comes. Sorry, boy, the elephants have made a mess here. Are you still going to drink this? It looks more like mud than water. I think he might get you and be a little disappointed. Oh, sorry, boy. Yes, I know, the elephants have been naughty, haven't they? Let's see. So, Gemma, you say you love this cat, that he is absolutely stunning, and thanks for being your Valentine, Hosana. Well, I think it's not only you, Gemma. I think there's many a individual that thinks Hosana is their Valentine. He really is a stunning cat, and he's got so much personality. I think that's why we can all identify with him. Now, he wants to come this direction because he wants to come and drink a little bit closer to where I am. There's a bit of a sort of less of a slope, so I'm just going to get out of his way and let him come down towards where he wants to go. Keep coming, boy. There's space for you now. There, he's going to go and drink on that side there, but it's still not a great place for him. So, Eugen, you want to know how smart are leopards? Well, they're just about one of the smartest cats we've got. I think they are incredibly smart. A lot of people don't give them that much credit, but I think that they are. Are you going to lie there now? Okay, Hosana, that's if you want to lie there, then we'll go around the other side of where you are. We had to just give him a little bit of space so that he could walk around, but now we're going to have to do a little loop to the other side so that we can see him nicely, which is fine because there's a nice little gap through here. Just got to be careful of the little baby leadwood on the left-hand side here. There we go, through the baby leadwood on the left, keeping it in mind. Now you might be wondering why I'm being careful of a baby leadwood. Well, the reason I'm being careful of a baby leadwood is because they are slow-growing trees and protected, and so we don't want to damage any leadwoods trying to drive through here. It's one of those trees we try and avoid as much as is possible in order to be able to kind of off-road. So it's important to also remember that we have trees out here, and the trees are equally sort of valuable as much as anything else. We wouldn't drive over a leopard, so try and avoid driving over the special trees that we have. There's some trees that grow all over the place and are kind of almost invasive, and then there's other trees that are, you know, a little bit more kind of special. Anyway, Hosana's found himself a nice little cool spot. Actually, what the elephants might have done, other than sort of making the water dirty, is that they've probably made this area nice and cool. That all the mud that is splashed onto the ground has probably left a nice cool layer of mud for him to try and have a little rest. Now, this is very exciting news because it sounds like Scotty D has finally completed his mission for the afternoon, and so we have a drive where we've got our two boys once again, which is the first time in a long time. So let's send you over to Scott and the very special Thamba.
Well, I couldn't be happier and also grateful to VM, or for VM, for finding these tracks initially, and I had the very, very fortunate task of being able to follow his footprints through a maze of little pathways until they led me to him sleeping right where he is here. And I was close to him when I first spotted him. All I could see was a patch of spots. Let me show you where I was into relation to where he is now. He didn't move a muscle, and that's absolutely incredible considering how skittish these animals can be. Basically, straight through this little gap here, right over there is where I was standing. And I got a visual through some bushes, just of a few rosettes, and I just backed up slowly. I never got to see his face or how intently he was looking at me. I just kind of walked off and went back, and VM drove the car around a little bit closer by. But fascinating how relaxed he was with us on foot. Maybe it's because our eyes didn't lock contact with one another, or simply, maybe it's just simply because he is such a relaxed young boy. And like Tristan says, it's been a long time since we've had these two, Hosana and Thamba, on drive simultaneously, and we are just so lucky to be able to spend time with these animals. We didn't get to spend too much time with Thamba when he was growing up with Tundi. Hopefully we'll be able to get to know her current daughter a little bit better than him. But what we can assure you is that now we are allowed such great insight into their lives because they are very relaxed. And had we have tracked and found a skittish leopard, it would have run off into riverbed, which is very close by, and that would have been the end of that. Whereas with these guys, they really do assist us when it comes to getting to know them. Beautiful. Now, I wonder how busy he's been today. But we'll never know the answer to that. But just wondering, and we're going to race you off to Hosana, who is about to have a drink.
Well, I don't know if he's about to have a drink. He's trying to, but it's too muddy to get to where the water is, and so he keeps putting his foot there, and then he slips a little bit, and then he doesn't know what to do with all of this. I'm sorry, boy. Are you thirsty? And the elephant's made a big problem for you. I know. But why don't you go... It's not far to Chitwa, and you can go to the nice dam and have water there. Or are you just going to wait until it dries up? No, he's undecided at this stage, but look at that. Isn't that cool? He is seriously beautiful. And like I say, we're being spoiled this afternoon because for you guys, you're getting to see two of the most beautiful cats we have here in this whole Djuma area. Between Thamba and Hosana is a bit of a race, and I know there's a split vote between all of you as to who thinks, well, which one is the better Valentine bachelor. But for me, Thamba is my favorite, but that's not because Hosana is not an epic animal. I absolutely love following Hosana as well. So, difficult to choose, but anyway, I know it would be interesting for all of you to kind of debate it, so we'll have to see as a vote who do we think is the better Valentine bachelor. Now, while Hosana moves off, I think he's going to go north into Torchwood to go look for water. Let's send you back across to Thamba and see what he's up to.
Well, Tristan's Valentine is fast asleep, and you should have actually heard both Tristan and Ferg, who was teamed up with Tristan on camera this morning, get back and just have never-ending good things to say about Thamba and how amazing he is. And he is a beautiful young male. We had a fascinating morning with him after drive. Firstly, there was another lone impala nearby that I was almost certain he was going to try and catch, but he didn't. And that opportunity was a really good one that he gave up on. I'm not too sure why. He seemed to have seen the impala and stopped and looked in that area, and he was quite close by, but just didn't make any attempts to catch it. And then later on, he kind of started coming up to the car and looking underneath it from all different angles. And we were wondering what it was that was getting his attention under there, and it turned out to be a tortoise. So that was quite a cool scenario to enjoy with him, but he certainly didn't show much hunting prowess. Scarlett, you would like to know how far is Thamba away from Hosana and Tristan at the moment? And I would say, as the crow flies, 2 miles. Not a huge distance. They, at this stage of their lives, they could cross paths quite a lot, and not too much should come of it, because they're both youngsters that are, in theory, flying below the radar of bigger males. So it would be interesting to see what happened if they came across one another. Although I think you guys have had a sighting of Thamba, Hosana and Tingana all in one sighting. I stand to be corrected, but I remember something strange like that happening. I'm not too sure how much interaction there was. Oh, and I'm told that Thamba and Hosana did once have a fight. Interesting. I'd like to know more about that, how physical it was and what actually happened. If anybody does know the answer to that, it would be very, very nice to know. But for now, there's not much chance of that happening. I would be interested in seeing what happens if this guy came across his mother and their young or her young cub, and if that has already happened, it would be wonderful to know. Hey boy, with your pretty eyes. Jenny, you'd like to know if Thamba avoids Hosana, or does any kind of specific movements in and around him, and I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think many people do, to be honest. But the last few weeks, it seems like Thamba's been spending time in the kind of northwestern corner of Djuma, whereas Hosana spends time mainly on the southeastern corner of Djuma and then east and south of there onto Chitwa. So it appears like they are moving through different areas at the moment. But again, so much happens without us actually knowing about that. It's hard to be able to answer those kinds of questions conclusively. Very good. We are going to send you back to Tristan and Hosana.
Well, we are still with Hosana, but he's crossing north into Torchwood, so we're going to lose visual of him in the next 2 seconds as he goes over the road. So there he goes, disappearing into Torchwood, and obviously there's water somewhere close by that he knows about that he's going to, because that's the direction he's heading, is pretty much for water. So he has obviously worked out that there's exact places to get water in this area, which is a very clever maneuver, and he knows that Chitwa Dam is too dangerous to drink at, so that's why he'd rather go somewhere where there's a smaller sort of pond area that he can drink at, like what we saw just now. But I think he's going to have a tough time, and there's so many elephants around that pretty much every mud wallow has been in some way abused by Ellies at this stage, so I don't think he's going to win too much. But there we go, he's disappearing into Torchwood. Unfortunately, that's going to be the end of our sighting of Hosana for now. What we'll probably do is go towards Chitwa, hang around there at the dam, maybe go and see if there's some Ellies swimming, and then we'll hopefully come back around here a little bit later and see his tracks coming back into this area and crossing back towards his kill. I certainly think he is going to come back to his kill. He just really wants to get water for now. He's not going to have a situation where, you know, he wants to kind of sort of not drink. He needs to drink at the end of the day. He'll come back. It's just going to take a little bit of time for that to happen. So we're going to head off and leave Hosana going northwards, and we'll come back a little bit later when he comes back. So, Rick King, you're wondering if Thamba and Hosana are brothers? Well, they're half-brothers, essentially. So Thamba's mom, Thandi, is Hosana's sister, with different males though as fathers for Thandi and Hosana, and then obviously Thamba is Thandi's son, so it's kind of half brother. Does that make sense? It's all a bit incestuous actually, but they are related though. They do have the same bloodline, so Thamba's grandmother is Hosana's mother, if that makes sense, even though they are so close in age. I know, weird. Right. And so Scott is wondering about whether or not there's been any interactions between Thamba and Hosana. There's actually been quite a few, Scotty. So there's been one that we've witnessed at Wild Earth, which was an epic encounter at Twin Dams, where Hosana had spent the day at Twin Dams relaxing and resting on the dam wall, and then Thamba came wandering down just before we finished the drank, and then they walked up to each other. There was a bit of growling, a bit of hissing, a bit of sort of submissive nature as they rolled onto their back, and they kind of just played a little bit, and then, you know, we got to a situation where they split off and went their separate ways. So they definitely have come into contact, and then I've heard of a couple other sightings where they've been together in the same place, and it seems as though both times it's just been a bit amicable. I gather that at the end of the day, both of them being young males, as much as they don't really want to be right next to each other, they also have this situation where they probably crave company a little bit, particularly in Hosana's case. Thamba seems to be a little bit more, well, handling life on his own a little bit more, whereas Hosana seems to kind of seek out other individuals to try and kind of spend time with. But it is fascinating to watch, and certainly the two of them together was absolutely amazing to kind of see how it all played out. I thoroughly enjoyed watching, you know, that sighting, and to see the kind of brazen nature of both of them. I mean, Hosana came straight at Thamba, Thamba went straight at Hosana. Hosana started growling, and Thamba just kind of walked straight past him as if to say, I'm thirsty, you just wait, I'll deal with you now. Drank, and then got up and walked towards Hosana. They kind of got nose to nose, and there was a bit of growling, a bit of hissing. Nothing really major played out, and then they followed each other off into the darkness, and we lost the two of them quite quickly. So pretty incredible though to witness the two of them come together, and I'm sure that they will again at some point there will be some interaction, particularly if they're both kind of moving around a little bit, and you're seeing, especially with Thamba, he's kind of drifting quite a lot. I'm pretty sure they are going to come into contact with one another again at some point, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not it's changed over the course of the last few months, or if they're still quite curious about one another. Right, since I've got no more sign of Hosana for now, and let's send you back rather to go look at the beautiful Thamba as I try and see if maybe I can scrounge Thandi out of the hat, or just go and enjoy the sights at Chitwa Dam.
Well, that would be an incredible end to the safari. I like Tristan's game plan now that Hosana's headed off. And I'm not sure what he heard over here, old Thamba, but he repositioned it. It was quite interesting to see him reposition. You can see he's now facing the opposite direction, but he almost did it in kind of stealth mode, just to make sure whatever noise he did hear didn't see him flopping over again. It was obviously nothing too important, because all he thought he needed to do was just change his angle of view. And now he's back to sleep. What's further interesting is that from our camp where we drove out, he's probably about 100 yards away. So very, very close to our camp, and who knows, maybe he will pop in to the camp surroundings later on this evening. Good prospects for us to do a little bit of a staff drive after dinner. Djuma, you'd like to know, when will Thamba and Hosana be old enough to mate? On average, I would say leopards will gain dominance and start mating at around 5 years of age, but there will always be exceptions to the rule. And I think Quarantine, who is quite young but surprisingly dominant by the sounds of things for his age, he's already been seen mating, I think, when he was about 4 years old, I think. So, yeah, I mean, roughly 5 years of age would be the start of a male leopard's sexual activity. But I'm sure there are some major outliers with regards to that. Some guys may start much younger in areas where there's not as much competition from bigger males. And I think that happens quite a lot in Africa, because these animals do occur outside of national reserves and parks, unlike these lucky individuals here. Those guys have a lot of kind of external and different issues to face, and I think the major difference for them is that their populations aren't going to be as high as they are in areas like this, and that is going to cause some major differences in their behavior. I guess that's an unnatural scenario that we're discussing. On a friend of mine's farm, just north of a city called Durban on the east coast of South Africa, about 50 kilometers north of there, you get another small coastal town called Belito. And in and around that area, there's a lot of sugarcane farms. And on one of my friend's farm there, they've had leopards recently, or at least a leopard. The head kind of foreman on the farm seen it a few times, and not many people believed him. But when I saw some of the tracks that they'd taken photos of, it's 99% certainty that it is in fact a leopard moving very, very close to one of the large cities in South Africa here. Thankfully, young Thamba won't have to be dealing with any city swellers. Chitwa, you'd like to know, I think, which animals have become more relaxed with us on foot, because of us spending quite a lot of time on foot, and not just us, but a lot of the other guides and trackers when they're out searching for these animals. I think leopards would be one of the major, one of the main animals that has become relaxed with us. Lions, surprisingly, are either aggressive or complete nerds and run off. And more often than not, they run off. At least that's my experience. Even though, there's no negative behavior from guides or trackers when they do find them. So I'm not too sure why the lions are like that. But leopards, what's interesting with leopards is you tend to find males when they're young are very relaxed. But when Thamba gets older, it'll be very, very interesting to see if he is still relaxed with us as humans. And that's kind of a bit of a general trend that I've noticed, especially with male leopards and also just young leopards, I guess. Hosana and Shongile, it sounded like those two provided you guys with some incredible moments with the bushwalk teams over the last couple of years. And they were super, super relaxed. and I think that may change as the animals get a bit older and wiser. But, walking around the quarantine clearings, the wildebeest and Nyala, there's a lot of animals that do get used to us on foot. Christy, you'd like to know if Hosana's ever visited our camp. Not since I've been here, but I am certain that he would have spent a lot of time in and around the kind of camp environments when he was growing up. I remember when Nikki and I came back to visit Safari Live last year, March. We just popped in for a visit. We bumped into Shongile, who was only 50 meters away from the final control room as we arrived into camp. So yes, it's quite common for leopards to spend time in and around camps. They're not, especially here in the Sabi Sands, where they've become quite comfortable with humans. Our camp's not very conducive to a leopard coming in for a visit, though, because it's not very big, and it would be trapped in a tiny courtyard if it did come into our camp. But in the surrounding areas, definitely. Very good. We are going to stay put and hope that Thamba gets up and takes us for a stroll, and we are going to send you across to Tristan for an update on his quests.
Well, my quest is going well, Scotty, because I found tracks now for Thandi that are from this afternoon. They've been driven over by a vehicle, but she's moving around in this little section very close to where Hosana was, and there was no tracks coming out on either road. So I think she's somewhere in this general vicinity. It's just going to be a matter of actually pinpointing exactly where she is. She, of course, could be under any one of these bushes and hiding out, so just got to get rid of some spider webs that are in my face, which will be quite nice. Now, I believe Scotty's been chatting about Hosana being in camp and various other things. So Hosana has been into the DRC a few times, or into our camps a few sort of occasions, and actually one time he came in, he went and sort of jumped on top of the signpost that is on our sort of DRC signpost, which I'll show you now. I don't have the photo of him on top with me, but I've got the photo of when he was sniffing. So this is when Hosana was kind of sniffing around. That's the entrance to our camp, and he was just taking it very easy. Sorry, I do apologize about my screen being very dirty, but there you go, sniffing around, just checking, reading, making sure he knows where he's going. He then hopped on top of that and sat on the top of the sign for a while and posed, and then jumped back down again, which was very cool. So they do come in every now and then. Shongile also used to come in every now and then. In fact, her fight with Thandi was right at Gallagher camp, so they did used to come in. Not nearly as much, though, as Mishu and Duna, Shivinzi, Shavamalana, and Quarantine and Kanyuma. They used to be a lot more around the lodge. For some reason, Karula with Hosana and Shongile seemed to move a little further south and spend a lot more time in Little Gari than the previous litters that she had, which was quite cool. Right, now this waterbuck that is sitting here is looking quite nervous down towards the drainage, so I'm just stopped and just watching in case Thandi is maybe lurking. There's a little Mulawanini area just to my left, and she used to love going in here. When I used to work at Chitwa, this was Thandi's haunt. Wherever we are now, she used to go up and down in this section, and so I wonder if she's not lying down towards the Mulawanini section, and if I just go in there, maybe I'll get lucky and find her on that section. So I'll just take a little turn down there. But that waterbuck is definitely listening very intently, looking a lot, and probably knows that between this area there's been a lot of leopard activity and needs to be a little careful. Of course, a big male waterbuck like this doesn't really have to worry that much. Hosana and Thandi are not going to be a huge threat to a waterbuck of that size, which is pretty insane. Now, right, there's some squirrels also alarm calling not too far from here, so I'm going to quickly go and check those out. While I do that, let's send you back across to Scotty and the beautiful Thamba.
Well, exciting stuff there, and well done to Tristan for finding some tracks of Thandi. I hope those squirrels have spotted her and are going to lead Tristan and you guys straight towards them. Now you can see that Thamba is looking very alert. He's pricked his ears up, he's lifting his head up. Oh, he's heard a squirrel, I think. I just saw a squirrel running off down there, and you got a glimpse of that. I mean, that is frightening. How on earth did you hear a squirrel ferreting through the undergrowth at that distance? And that is absolutely phenomenal. I was expecting something far larger than a squirrel to come bounding out. And that is an incredibly wonderful example of how good their hearing is. Wouldn't a squirrel be a nice snack to start off the evening, Thamba? I wonder when last he ate, and what it was, and what his kind of diet consists of. Young male leopards like this can often struggle to get decent meals. First lady, you'd like to know if leopards ever come to the camp in search of food. Oh, he's on the move. How cool is this? And no, they don't. They're just kind of passing by. There's not much food for them there. They don't like our food. They're not as liberal as the hyena when it comes to eating human snacks. So no, not to look for food. I think if anything it's just kind of going about their business, moving along from A to B. So now we need to try and keep up with the action here. I've just spotted another squirrel, and I think that is what he's after, which is really surprising because I would have expected a male of this size to be a little bit less intent on such small prey like a squirrel. But maybe he was just making sure he knew what was making that noise. And now that he knows, he's lay right back down. So let's see if we can loop around and get you some more good views from here. Sounds like there's some francolins on the scene as well. Paul, you would like to know if a young male leopard like this would ever kind of roll around in the sense of a bigger, more dominant male in order to try and mask his own scent. I don't think that would work, Paul, and I've never actually seen it happening. I think their own smell would overwhelm the smell of the dominant male. Now, he was getting a little bit hissy there, and I think it was at the francolin, which is just in a bush in front of us here. I've just heard it flutter about, and it was going kick, kick, which was giving away his location. And he doesn't like his location being given away because then he battles to catch the squirrels. Oh, he's headed straight back to where we've came from, so will we. And I'm guessing he may continue down that small pathway that he's heading along because there's a small waterhole there where he may take a drink. Going to try and swivel you guys around quickly to get another view of him. Oh no, don't go down in there, buddy. That is going to be near impossible for us to follow you through. Oh, we don't want to say goodbye yet, Thamba. Oh well, maybe we'll be able to keep up with him. Let me keep moving now. Richard, you'd like to know if insects on the ground will ever bother leopards like Thamba, and yes, they certainly will. I know there was quite a few ants around him when VM was filming his tail a bit earlier. I don't think they will pose too much of an issue to him. It's mainly flies that are going to give him a hard time. Having said that, though, I'm sure it's some kills, you know, ants like drop-tail ants can be a bit of a mission because they do like meat. So that would be a good example of an insect that may give a leopard a hard time. But I can't think of any kind of obvious insects other than the ones that we know bother them, bothering them. Okay. Where are we going to position ourselves? It's going to be a little bit tricky here. VM suggesting that he can possibly smell the barbecue that we've started up. We're doing some barbecue roasted chickens tonight. Vertical barbecue roasted chickens, which will be exciting. And I actually got the mechanic here to build the contraption that holds up 4 beer cans with 4 chickens perched on top of them when I was here many years ago, and that piece of equipment is still here, yet it has not been used for quite some time. So I'm going to show Amanda, the new chef, how exactly it works before Nikki and I head off on a break tomorrow. And very, very sad to be leaving the Sabi sands and the beautiful leopards that exist here. Tyler, you'd like to know why he cares so little about the vehicle. And isn't it astounding how they act like we're not even here? And that's from a lot of great guiding practice over close on 50 or 60 years, where this reserve has been a photographic safari destination where the people come and spectate. There's no interfering, no harming of animals, no feeding of animals. We merely just look at them. And you can imagine in this individual's case, when he was growing up as a young little furball, just like when you were a young little not furball, you read into a lot of your parents' behavior. And if your parents are relaxed with a certain situation, you too will become relaxed with that situation. So his mother, Tundi, was habituated with vehicles, and from a very young age, she would allow us to view him. Well, not us, because we weren't around too much with him, but as in theory. You know, with Hosana, the leopard that was with Tristan a little bit earlier, our Safari Live crew spent many, many hours with him and his sister. What are you creeping up on there? I wonder if the squirrels are making their way down the riverbed and he's trying to just listen in on them. Let me try and move forward a bit. I think we can get you into a gap. Well, this is interesting. Christy, thank you for giving us this info. You've suggested that old Thamba here has got a certain love affair for squirrels, and that Tristan on quite a few occasions would actually kind of not bully Thamba, but just chirp him about continuing to go for squirrels as opposed to taking larger, more kind of substantial prey like scrub hares or anything like that. So maybe there's a certain something or other that this guy loves about the squirrel. Maybe it's the challenge of catching them, because I could think of easier prey to catch. That's for certain. Gerhardus Butter, I'm very, very glad you are watching and keeping a close eye on me, because it's actually despicable that I use the word barbecue, considering we are a proudly South African company. I should have rather used the word braai. And thanks very much, Gerardus, you are right. Sadly, though, not sadly, but the reality is most of our audience is American, and to explain what a braai is every time we need to say barbecue, I guess you could possibly forgive me for. But now that you've highlighted the difference, it's good that you know, and I must elaborate, that a barbecue, or rather a braai, shouldn't be gas-powered. It shouldn't be charcoal-powered. It should be good, hard wood in its natural state, nice and dry, which forms a beautiful bed of coals on which you roast your meal. No gas. Gas is cheating. And it provides no flavor to the meat. Guide Monkey, he is hungry. He does look hungry to me. I'm not sure when last he had a meal, but he could definitely do with one. His belly is far from bloated with meat. So, yeah, he I think is hungry. No two ways about that. I can't stress to you what a good scenario he duffed this morning with a baby impala. It was out in the open, standing up. I'm 99% sure he could see the thing, but he kept getting distracted by, I think, a scrub hare that he had chased and tried to catch a little bit earlier. Something erupted from a bush as he was moving through the vegetation, and he chased it. We couldn't see what it was. And the next thing we knew, he looped ahead of him, and there was a baby impala standing up in front of him. He appeared to be looking straight at it. Actually, let me see if I can show you a picture here of what was happening. I think it'll actually be quite a cool picture once I find it. Okay, so I found it. There you can see, so I'm just trying to tilt the camera to get the right angle. There you can see the impala. Let me actually scroll to the next picture. Oh, that one's better. And as I zoom in, you can see Thamba right over there. Sorry. There he is. Sitting, looking right at that baby impala. Not far away. Yet nothing happened. That's all I have to say about that. Shrugging of shoulders. Come on, Thamba, show us your skills. Willie, you say perhaps he's watching his weight. Well, he's too small to be watching his weight. He would have some kind of a disorder if he thinks he needs to watch his weight. If anything, he needs to gain as much weight as possible. He's still a growing lad. Apologies. He just had to listen to me glugging down some ice cold water. I promise it wasn't something else. Just what works quite well is to freeze a 2-litre block of ice, or 2-litre bottle of ice, and that lasts the whole drive quite well. There's still quite a big ice block in there, actually. Very good. Well, it seems like he's just nestled himself down there for now. And Tristan is back on his vehicle after a short reconnaissance mission on foot, so why don't you hop on board with him and find out what is going on in the area of Thandi.
We are back on the vehicle, Scotty, and that's because we've got tracks for Thandi heading in this direction. So she cut over a major game path. So I'm just trying to look out for her under any of these little thickets. She certainly hasn't crossed out, so it means that she's either still inside here or she's turned more back towards One-Eyed Pan. So I just want to check around nicely and double check these pathways that go. So these big east-west pathways, and she's kind of heading north, so she's kind of bisecting the pathways as she goes. And this is an area where I used to follow her and Wabayiza quite often, so I'm hoping that if I just continue on the path that she's roughly walking, that we'll bump into her somewhere on one of these termite mounds or under a bush somewhere. That's the idea anyway, but we definitely had a track back there, even with the vehicle heading in the direction that I'm heading. So hopefully we're going to pick her up now. That would be a cherry on top of a wonderful Valentine's Day leopard spectacular, if we can call it that, because the leopards have really come out to play today. They've all been out, well, my favorite leopards, that is, have been out, so it's been nice to have all of them out and about. That's of course if this is Thandi. I mean, it could be Kuchava, you never know. She also hangs around this area. It's a female leopard. Oh, that hurts. Hold on. So Djuma fan, you want to know who, apart from Thamba, who is my favorite leopard of all time? Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one. So in the males, I would have to go. This is a tough one because there's 3 of them that I really used to absolutely love. So one was Mvula, the other was a male by the name of Mafufunyan, which has also got close ties with the Karula lineage and all of these leopards that we follow. He was the presumed father of even Thandi, so he was a very cool male. And then there was a male in the central parts of the Sabi Sands called the Kushan male, who I absolutely loved. He was a beautiful individual. In fact, Thamba reminds me a little bit of him. Same sort of kind of face and serious look about him as well. But he was a beast of an individual. And it was the first really big male leopard that I got to spend time with. Scotty will remember Kushan male. He was around Singita, and so Scotty will definitely remember him. So that was like my kind of first taste of a big male. That's why I really enjoyed him. And then Mvula was amazing when I was at Chitwa. He obviously was the dominant male that I saw a lot of. And then kind of came, Mafufanyan as well. Anderson is also up there just because of, from a sheer sort of size perspective, he's just an impressive animal. So it's hard not to kind of like Anderson. It's not that he's my favorite because of sightings I've had of him. In fact, he frustrated me a lot because he was difficult to find. But I really just, from a sort of specimen point of view, he was just something else. So he was a really incredible specimen, and that's why I used to like Anderson a lot. In terms of the females, my favorite females, probably I would say Tiani and Intima. So there's a female that used to be in this area called Intima, who was on Hoffman's, that area. She's one of my absolute favorites. Of course, this is discounting Tandi because I was talking about leopards in the past, not leopards now. But yeah, I would say Tandi is definitely my favorite that's still around, but Intima and Tiani are the ones that I miss the most in terms of girls. So that's kind of the leopards that I like and have had the pleasure of dealing with. But there's so many. I've had such a kind of lucky existence to have seen the number of leopards I have, and have spent time around so many of them that I've actually gotten to know as many as I have is very, very cool. So I don't know, it's difficult. It's difficult to narrow one down at the end of the day. It's always hard when you do that. We're almost at Gari Main now, so I feel like maybe I've taken a turn in the wrong direction somewhere. I've been talking so much, I haven't actually been looking for tracks at all, so I feel like I probably have missed out on what's going on. And so while I kind of regather my bearings and just check around properly, let's send you back to Scotty and Thamba, and hopefully little Thamba will start to get to move.
Well, Tristan on a roll there. Forgot what he was actually set out to achieve. And I guess that's a good sign that he was deeply involved in the conversation with you guys. Now, Thamba is looking a little bit more alert. He just had one yawn, which is a good sign that he may be thinking about getting up shortly. And I really am hoping that he just moves 100 yards or so and takes a drink at a beautiful open waterhole, where we'll get some fantastic views of him. It seems like whatever was scurrying around down in the riverbed below him has moved off, and it looks like he too is planning the same thing. Come on, buddy. Get up. Clock is ticking. JK, you would like to know if there's any difference in mortality rate between male or female cubs. I doubt it. I think cubs, be it male or female, will both be killed by male leopards, as in when male leopards come across them that didn't father them, they're going to take no exception to their gender. And I don't think, I don't think there's a correlation between boys or girls taking bigger risks and therefore maybe being killed by a hyena or lion. I think it would balance itself out. Be a very interesting study. Again, so difficult for many reasons. Leopards are widely spread across Africa and also occur in India. And in all the varying parts that they live in Africa, they'll have different kind of obstacles and different threats and different dynamics. So, I mean, if we were to be able to do a test of the leopards of the Sabi Sands, or let's say the Kruger National Park, then at least we would have an idea of what happens here. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can apply that theory to leopards across Africa. Wonderful stuff. He's up and on the move. And I'm guessing he could well go for a drink at the waterhole. He is heading in that direction. However, if he ducks down into this riverbed, it'll be time for us to say goodbye for him. He may not, though. I'm hoping he's going to just stay up along the same contour that he's moving along now. You can see he is creeping. So something would have got his attention up ahead there. I wonder, yet again, what it is. Jenny, you'd like to know, why do leopards and lions yawn before getting up? I guess, the same reason we yawn when we're getting tired and there's not much oxygen moving through our body and our brain. It's a reaction to try and oxygenate oneself, and therefore have better ability to move and think once your body has lots of oxygen in it. So I guess, yeah, it's just to kind of prime their system, get it ready for movement. What are you sneaking up on, Thamba? Wouldn't it be nice to know? He is moving with extreme stealth. Maybe he's heard some more squirrels, maybe something else is rustling down there. There's a very deep drainage line, kind of gully, that he's looking down into. And VM's been doing a magical job on camera, keeping you as close and up to date with his movements as possible, but now he has stopped in a tricky spot. So I wonder if we should... I think we can slink around and try our luck from another angle. It's a gamble, but I think it's worthwhile. Oh, well, very, very happy to hear from Robin, who's had a wonderful day and that you've enjoyed everything. And that's wonderful to hear. I know I certainly have, and Tristan's probably in the same boat too. So I think it's a whole bunch of us that have been having a good time out here on safari. Tight squeeze here. Like I said, this is a bit of a gamble. You can see the new accommodation that James took you guys on a little bit of a tour around. So he's right in front of those rooms. How cool is that? If those of you who haven't seen the video yet, James just did a little short piece on the upgrades and renovations that are being done here at Djuma to accommodate our growing crew. Guide Monkey, you've just said the boy's got 5 minutes to make a squirrel kill and go. Well, unfortunately, it seems like even if he does make a squirrel kill, it is going to be in an area where we can't see him. I can see the stump that he ended up very, very close to. Have you got it through there, VM? It's kind of at like 2 o'clock. You can see a bit of soil and roots. Yeah. He ended up just to the right of that somewhere. But it's such a thick bush to the right of that we can't actually see through it. Oh, well done. Well done. There we go. At least somebody knows what they're doing here. Well done, VM. How cool. So we've got a bit of a view, I guess. At least we can see him. And great testament again to an epic camouflage. Okie dokie, well, we're going to stay put here. Hopefully he'll get up and move a little bit closer towards us. In the meantime, we are sending you back to Tristan.
Well, I hope so, Scotty. I hope he'll decide to come closer to you, but exciting that he's around the camp.